to. Um, and so the chat is turned off except for chat to the host. There's no stupid questions. At some point, we're going to be using lots of letters. And if you don't know what those letters mean, please go ahead and ask. So this is a really important meeting. I want to thank everybody for being here. So today we're talking about today we're talking about how we're going to help save public transit by getting the state to correctly fund us. And this meeting is being recorded. My name is Carol Taylor. I'm with the Genesis Disability Transit Justice Task Force. And this meeting, of course, is being held by Voices for Public Transportation, a coalition of member organizations that are all active for transportation. I think everybody here is probably aware that most of our transit companies are facing billions of dollars of debt. The emergency federal funding has disappeared and riders have not come back. So Governor Newsom cut transportation funding in his suggested budget, which of course is an outrage. So we have to fight against that. Next Monday is a very important hearing, and it's going to be the transportation committees for both the state Senate and the state assembly meeting together. And the title of this hearing is The Short-Term Crisis and Long-Term Transformation, How to Bring Back and Build Transit Ridership in California. I think that's a goal we can all agree with. And this meeting will be at 3 o'clock on Monday. It's going to be online, visible to everyone, but we're going to be proactive and call these people and tell them our requests and demands, a week before the meeting. So thank you. Of course, we all have personal reasons about why transportation is important to us. I need it just for basic, shopping, job. But what really bothers me is my 36-year-old son has an invisible disability that does not allow him to drive. And so if their public transportation is disrupted seriously, which appears to be happening as routes just get canceled intermittently, spontaneously, he's not going to be able to make a living. He's not going to be able to get to his job. He's 36 years old. He's in the prime of life. This is, an adult that really needs to build his career and get going. And it breaks my heart that he's going to be unable to do these things if he can't get to his work and get to places where he needs to go. So that's why public transportation is important to me. And so I'd like to move on and introduce Brandy Donaldson from ATU, the American 192, and she's a bus operator with AC Transit. So thank you very much, Brandy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brandy Donaldson. I'm a bus operator for AC Transit, and I have been driving for 6.5 years. I'm also a member of ATU 192, which is the union that represents us, as well as part of People's Transit Alliance. And I sit on the Contra Costa Labor Council representing our ATU 192. So I came here to talk to you guys about funding, because that's the main issue at hand. As a bus operator, funding impacts my life greatly at our job. Before the pandemic even started, we were in a driver shortage and in need of hiring bus operators to continue servicing the existing routes. With the pandemic hitting, we had an increase in retirees as well as operators who chose to step away or early retirement due to health reasons that the pandemic could cost them their lives. As well as myself, during the pandemic, I drove the whole time, and we had to use a COVID shield for our protection, but in that it injured me, and I now have an injured neck and shoulder where I've actually been out of work since July 30th of 2022. And so we started the pandemic with a driver shortage. During the pandemic, we've lost a substantial number of operators. And one of the main reasons that we can't get the operators in to be hired is the budget crisis. It's a lengthy training of 11 weeks to train a bus operator from hiring to before they can actually drive a bus with passengers on it. And majority of our operators are quitting shortly after reaching their training, which goes into another fiscal crisis that we face is, as bus operators, we do not have access to many clean restrooms. We do not have facilities set up at the ends of our lines. And during the pandemic, when all the restaurants and businesses were closed, we would have to drive for over 3 hours sometimes before we could find a restroom that was open and willing to let us use it. So we need funding not only to hire bus operators and retain the existing bus operators, we also need it to grow our facilities and our structure, which would help make our job a more appealing position to want to work at. Because it always doesn't just come down to salary and benefits. When we're out in these streets, we're facing a lot of different variables that makes this a really difficult job and to retain the employees. Also, going to the passenger side, we have had a downturn in the number of Trans-Bay passengers, the ones commuting to San Francisco, the ones who are using us as a complete commuter to their jobs. And we've had a massive uptick in our really less fortunate ridership, which causes a lot of stress and deficits on our passengers. We need to get funding for our organizations so we can offer lower fares and/or free fares for our general public, so we can get our individuals, the disabled, the elderly, the less fortunate, able to get to and from where they need to travel without it breaking their banks. So funding is a drastic need within our the Bay Area, California, and beyond, but we definitely need this funding and need to increase our bus operators. Unfortunately, the crisis in bus operators is across the whole United States. But I just want to thank you guys for coming out and supporting transit and doing this movement. In the last 2 years, since I've started getting involved with People's Transit Alliance and different organizations, the key that I have learned is when workers and riders come together, we're able to achieve great change. And I look forward to working with all of you and continuing this fight, both workers and riders, to make a change in transit and make transit for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you.
Did I introduce myself, Carol?
Sure, thank you very much.
Okay. No worries,
Thank
no
you.
worries. First of all, thank you, Brandy. I couldn't have said it better. When riders and operators work together, we can do amazing things. My name is Thea Selby. I'm the co-chair of the San Francisco Transit Riders, and I'm one of the co-founders of Voices for Public Transportation, which is the organization that is with the amazing help of the core committee, bringing all of you together today to advocate for what we really came together for, which is abundant, affordable, accessible, safe, public transportation for the region. That is why Voices for Public Transportation came together. And that is why we cannot be, oh, it's got to be fares, it can't be service, or it's got to be service, it can't be fares. You said it, Brandy, before I did. This is a fight. If you want abundant, accessible, affordable, and safe public transportation, this is a fight for both. It's a fight for affordability, and it's a fight for better service, more money for operators, more money for more lines, more money to make sure that those riders come back because it's affordable and it's great. So I believe that my role here is to do a demo, if that's correct, on what it looks like to talk to a representative. Is that correct? Am I the actor here?
First of all, you're not an actor. You're a real human gonna make a phone call. You will
Am I going to make a real phone call?
You're making a real life phone call. Thea, you're gonna be, it's actually Amy first, Amy from
Okay.
Transform, and
Excellent.
then you. But thank you for like inserting that energy.
You got it.
Yes, thank you,
Go,
Thea.
Amy.
And I think that was a good intro to where we're going. I'm just going to give a little bit more context on the fiscal cliff and the need for funding. I've got some slides, but this will be the most academic-y that will be this whole call. And then we'll move to some action. So let me go ahead and share screen. Apologies. Okay. All right. Are we all set? Okay. So my name is Amy Thompson. I'm the Transportation Policy and Programs Manager for Transform. You guys might remember me if you've been a member of Voices for Public Transit, because I've presented on the state budget work before. We're a core member of Voices for Public Transit, and this is our top campaign this year to save transit and reimagine a transit future here and throughout the state. So many of you guys know that ridership has really declined in the pandemic, and many agencies rely on these fare dollars to support their operations. And their operations dollars are the money that funds frequent and reliable transit service that goes towards our operator salaries, like Brandy. Thank you so much for being here today. And while ridership is recovering, it's not recovering fast enough. And the federal relief money that has been keeping agencies afloat is running out as soon as 2025, and we're not expecting to see any more. And this is a statewide issue. 72% of agencies across the state, as of a survey conducted last year, are facing this fiscal cliff. But here in the Bay Area, we're expecting a shortfall of $3 billion in the next 5 years. So for BART, excuse me, I'm ahead of myself. What we're calling this kind of operating deficit is the fiscal cliff. You've probably heard about it in the news, and if nothing changes, the agencies will need to make some pretty serious service cuts or fare increases. And you've probably, I'm sorry, I don't know if my slide is loading correctly, but we might not have time to troubleshoot that right now. So hoping to have a couple more clips kind of displaying on that slide, but kind of just demonstrating that this has been spoken about and written about in the news of what it would look like if agencies hit these fiscal cliffs and didn't have the operations dollars to keep going. As a California native, I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up in a car, and then I moved up to the Bay Area and I sold my car, and I just really enjoy living up here and being able to do that and navigate the transit system with my neighbors and my community. And if the transit agencies hit these fiscal cliffs, for example, BART would need to run just 3 lines of service at 60-minute headways, and only on the weekdays and not on the weekends. For me, that would be completely unacceptable. And I think for many others who don't have any other way to get around, that's not enough, and we deserve more options. Ah, I see. Okay. So, what are we going to do about it? And I think it's really important to go through why we care about transit so much, because it's so linked to our goals as a state. We are developing housing near transit right now to lower our monthly costs, continuing to invest in transit and making it frequent and reliable and affordable is what will reduce traffic on our highways for folks who do need to drive. It will reduce emissions. And public transit is also an essential part of combating the inequity that we face across this state. 60% of California residents who commute to work by transit make $35,000 or less, and over half, 1 million California households don't own a car. So this moment is actually what we can use to transform transit and continue investing in it and make it frequent and reliable. And so next I can tell you what we're doing and how you can get involved. Voices for Public Transit is a part of a diverse statewide coalition of government agencies, transit agencies, advocacy groups across the state. And we're asking for a state budget kind of funding augmentation to both address these fiscal cliffs, but also really think about how transit can thrive, because we know that the status quo isn't enough. And in line with Voices for Public Transit, we want to improve and reimagine this system. And that Thrive vision would allow for funding for affordable transit, for a better connected network, for a seamless network across our 27 transit agencies. And that work is going to take all of us banging down the door and sending this message to legislators to make transit for the people. And that's because we're starting with this state budget ask where the governor and our legislators are the decision makers. And that's who we're calling today, because they're the people who decide what goes into the budget. And this work, I just want to add really quickly, will lead into the regional transportation funding measure. That's our long-term goal here. So I want to tack that on. But today we're focused on calling legislators and getting this money into the state budget. And so next, I think I'm going to pass back to Thea. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for all those lovely details. And I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be calling, Mary, but I'm happy to say how I would do a call. And then possibly after that, if there's someone in particular, give me the number and I'm more than happy to call. I'm a big cold caller. I believe in calling. I believe people actually pay attention when you call. I don't think they pay attention when you do an email the same way they do as a call. It just makes a big difference. So I'm really happy that we're all here to make those phone calls. So how I would do this is first, I would say who I was. I'm Thea Selby. I'm with the San Francisco Transit Riders. I am a co-chair. I do not have a car and I depend on transit for me and my children who I raised in San Francisco to get around this fabulous city and around this region. And I'm calling you today because I need for you to support something for us, and that is funding. We need operations dollars to make sure that we can get first of all, survive this fiscal cliff. We're in a situation now where it's possible that several of our transit agencies in the region will not be able to even perform at the levels they're performing on now, and also thrive. Make sure that we get our riders back, make sure that we pay our operators properly, make sure, did you know that 60% of California residents who commute by transit make $35,000 or less? We need to take care of those people so we make sure that we meet our climate goals. We have really big climate goals. We're supposed to be switching 25% of reducing our vehicle miles traveled by 25% by 2030. So please support the funding so that we can avert this fiscal cliff that we're suffering from now, make sure that our various agencies in the region can survive, and also think about the importance of thriving, of getting our transit to where we want it to be: abundant, affordable, accessible, and safe. Can I count on your support, Senator Weiner?
Okay, so the priorities today are our own representatives. So we would like you to call Assemblymember Ting and do exactly what you just did, knowing that you may not get all of that out.
Yeah.
So here's 2 numbers. One is Assemblymember Ting's capital office, and one is his district office. It's your
Okay.
choice. Your choice.
I think I'm
And
gonna go district.
okay, so you're gonna go on. You're gonna pull out your phone, and you can. It's your choice. Do you want just to make the call on speaker, or do you want to get a human and ask them if they're okay with going on speaker? That's your choice too. And you're going to make the call as if it is live, because it's a real live constituent call.
I'm
Why
calling
is,
right now.
and if you could say one line about why Assemblymember Ting is significant.
Hi there. Is Assemblymember Phil Ting there by any chance? Potentially, is there anyone in your office who deals with transportation issues? Of course. She's going to check. I think this will happen a lot too, where you don't actually get hold of the person, but maybe you can ask for somebody else who you can talk to who's representative.
I like the real live, like reality show quality of this.
So kind of silly here.
Like the behind the scenes of making a call. And fun fact, for those of you who are on this call, oh.
Okay, Linda Rios. Yes. Sure. If you have a direct line for her, that would be awesome.
Thea, make your call anyway. Say what you want anyway.
Okay. Well, I'm actually practicing for a group of people how to talk to legislators. Can you be our legislator at the moment? And we'll go ahead and call Linda as well. But can we kind of give our message to you? I'll put you on speaker and you can listen to me and give us any feedback if you'd like. Thank you. No worries. No worries. And tell me your name. Tell me your name. Hi, Madeline. Okay, and I'm Thea. Okay, I'm gonna put you on speaker, okay, so everybody can hear. All right, here we go. So this is Madeline. Madeline, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Thea Selby, and I'm a friend, actually, of Phil Ting's, and a huge supporter of especially the jaywalking. He recently had some jaywalking legislation that I'm taking full advantage of. But I'm calling today because I am the San Francisco Transit Riders co-chair, and I am fully supporting the need, and I know that he's our budget chair, so he's so very important to us, our need to make sure that we have funding so that we can have our transit agencies survive this potential fiscal cliff that is coming up in the next couple of years. Not all of them, but many of them are suffering potentially with a very large fiscal cliff. And the reason that matters is it affects a lot of people. Who does it affect? Well, it affects the operators. There are a lot of people who work for these agencies who do very good work, who've worked really hard during COVID. And we want to make sure that we take care of them and we get them to have better jobs, more bathrooms, all those good things. And we need to get our passengers back. We need more riders to come to public transit if we are going to hit our climate goals. We have massive climate goals, as you may know, and they require for people to move from cars over to public transit. So I raised my kids in the city. I love public transit. It works very, very well, but it will not work well if we do not provide the operating dollars this year moving into the future. I don't know if you know this, but 60% of California residents who commute by transit make less than $35,000. So this is really very important for equity in California. It's important for us all to make sure we have abundant, affordable, accessible, and safe public transportation. Do you think you can support this?
I think that was an excellent pitch. To addressing both climate needs, because I know that the assemblies are both really prioritizing climate action and packages, so that's really important to mention. And I also appreciated the equity when
Awesome, awesome. Well, Madeline, thank you so much. I'm going to take you off speaker, but thank you so much for participating today, and we'll go ahead and call Linda as well. Yes. Thank you. Absolutely. And please, of course, and please say hello to the assembly member for me. All right. Take care. All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, nice. Thanks, Thea.
You're welcome.
So, hi everyone, Mary Lim Lampy. I'm Executive Director of Genesis, and we are a faith and justice coalition located mostly in the East Bay with some presence in Contra Costa County. And so just a shout out to especially all of you who work for transit operators, and I see a couple of staff from AC Transit, and the important work that we do for people in our community. I'm raising a transit user who at the age of 17 still has not gotten her driver's license, just sort of forgot about that, and is taking transit everywhere. And so this is really important to me because I just want to keep it going. And I love her getting on AC Transit and BART and not having to worry about her driving. So what we're going to do right now, we had a goal as a coalition to do 50 calls this afternoon. Right now we have 50 participants. So that means everyone make a call. Now we only need to do 49 because Thea just did one, tick one. Okay, so we have a bunch of behind the scenes people who are tracking the number of calls. But one of the things that we thought we would do is that we would, number one, put out the talking points. They're really simple. You can think to yourself, like, what did Thea get in there? She got a lot of stuff in there. It was probably the longest constituent call. It definitely felt like a Mardi Gras themed constituent call because it was just really like just getting everything in there. I loved it. So we would start out, and our suggestion is that you start out saying the reason you're calling right away. The second thing is for you to just say specifically what you're wanting, which is additional transit operations funding and the state budget to save public transit. If you get time with the person, if you get time with a human, you can say one thing about why it matters to you. I usually say that I believe in fighting for public transit because it will help, especially the most vulnerable people in my community, people with disabilities, elders, and youth. So I like to make sure, and someone just commented that to me, I like to make sure that I'm really clear about what I'm asking for. So getting a reaction, do you think Assemblymember Wicks is for or against this? Like, what do you think about your boss right now? So just getting a reaction is really good. Okay, so here are the talking points. And if you'd like, you might have a phone handy. You could take a picture of this and we'll put it back up. The other thing is that we have a priority to get 50 calls today. Number one is that we'd like you to call your assembly member. So if you don't do anything else, call your assembly member. Mine just happens to be Buffy Wicks. So there's her numbers. You just heard Thea, hers just happened to be Phil Ting. Those are his numbers. We threw in a couple of other numbers, and just because we know that you may not have your numbers handy, here is a handy find your rep link. If you put in your address, you can use the QR code. You can put in your address and you can find your rep and find the phone numbers. If none of these things are accessible to you and you need some support, please raise your hand in the using the reaction button, and one of us can help you. That's no problem. We want to make it easy for you. So here are some of the phone numbers if you want to take a picture. This is Senator Skinner, Assemblymember Ting, Assemblymember Wicks, and Assemblymember Kalra. Those are the phone numbers. Here are the talking points. We've repeated it a couple of times, but just saying, you know, I think it's fun to say that we're at a public transit Mardi Gras rally because it's fun to say that. And then I'm calling because we're afraid that public transit is going to fall off the fiscal cliff. You can give your own spin to these talking points, but your ask is that you want them to support additional transit operations funding in the state budget in order for us to save public transit. Believe me, many of these legislators do not get public transit focused calls. So this is really important what we're doing right now. We're going to, I see that there's a question. Michael, you want to unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you. Should we make mention of the fact that there's this joint transportation committee meeting on Monday?
What do you all think? Why not? Yeah, thumbs up from most of the people. So yeah, do it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna
What should we say about the joint meeting?
just let them know what's happening. And if they are interested, hopefully they know about it, right? But you could just let them know on the 27th that there's going to be this joint transportation meeting, and that hopefully, you know, I would want Buffy Wicks to show up and be tracking it, because she needs to hear like what kind of crisis we're in right now. Something like that. Sarah, does that sound okay?
That sounds
Sounds
right.
good.
I
Thank
was
you.
going to say, you don't have to be on the transportation committee to show up. So I think encouraging them, inviting them, if they're not on the transportation committee, to show up just to get educated and understand the crisis.
Okay. People have asked, and I'm going to put it in the chat right now, the link with the slides. These slides were used at a Genesis rally. So there's a bunch of like random stuff about Rosa Parks that a bunch of my students did. So feel free to enjoy, but if you're like confused about that, that's why the slides are the way they are. Okay. And then Dominic, you can go ahead and make your call right now. Just hold on, Dominic, sorry. If you are making a call right now and you have made a call, could you please chat one of us, one of the co-hosts or the hosts? And you can also give a thumbs up because we're tracking to get to 50. I believe we're at Thea's call plus Eugene made a call, so that's 2, so 48 to go. Go ahead, Dominic.
Hi, I was wondering if we might run into an issue where a lot of us are calling the same office, so they might not be able to answer. Should we just leave a message?
What do people think about voicemails? What do you all think about voicemails?
If I could offer a little insight, I used to work in
Sure.
I used to work in a member caller's office, and
Yeah.
they do, you know, they document those voicemails the same way they do emails, but obviously I think a phone call is very much more effective. If maybe you can call a little later today and get someone on the phone, that would be great as well.
Yeah. So we like human to human in these calls. There's lots and lots of voicemails that come through. So it's a lot more effective for human to human. So that's why we're meeting at noon, because we want there to be as many human to human calls right now. It's a lot more effective. So just to encouragement, if you've already made your call, you can either chat one of us or you can put your thumbs up and we're tracking it. Because I would love to see if anyone's been successful with calling some of these other people. Don't worry about calling. They have lots of lines, so don't worry about that. They also have staff that their job is to track constituent calls. So let's not worry about that, just call. And another thing that comes up is often they want to know if you're a constituent, so they might ask your address, so just know that. This affects everyone, so I don't worry too much about that. The state budget and transit is interconnected. It connects all of us in the entire region, so don't worry about that. Anyone else with questions? We're going to take a few minutes and make just do sort of silent, just silence, so we can just make our calls, and then Eugene, we're going to call for people to let us know what the call what happened. Okay. So I'm going to make my Buffy Wicks call.
All right, I'll wait then. I just want to give an update, but I'll wait.
Okay, so put me down for one call to Assemblymember Wicks, and I got a person in district. they did look and see, they do have that 27, the February 27th hearing on her calendar. Anyone else with calls? Looks like Andrea made her call, Ian made a call, and that was McGuire. So Siddharth got a call. Is anyone I forgot. Ian, are you counting? Oh, Ian. Come on. I feel like Michael is in the midst of making his call. I think Dominic is making his call. Did you just call your old like colleagues, Dominic? Looks like
I did.
okay, Senator Bill Dodd. That's really good, Carol, from the North Bay. Okay, so Eugene, do you want to debrief a little bit? Please keep making your calls. That's great. This really does make a difference. You can tell, like, if they feel a little bit annoyed that they're getting a lot of public transit calls, that's like the vibe we're going for, is just for them to be like, oh my gosh, another public transit call. We want that. So anyone else? Thanks, Darlene. That's great. Thank you for calling Senator Skinner's office. That's great. That was Steve. So I think that we're very close to our 50. I'm going to do some counting. Eugene, I don't know if I sort of lost track of you. Do you want to give an update of how your call went with your person?
Oh, yes, and just,
Yeah, go ahead, Eugene.
hi, everybody, this is Eugene Bradley. Just to give a quick intro, I'm founder and CEO of Silicon Valley Transit Users. We're based largely in San Jose. I live in Monterey County for the most part, so I just spoke with my state assembly member. Her name is Dawn Addis, and she's going to look into more about Senator Wiener's committee. I'm in the process of contacting my state senator, John Laird, right now. One question, though, for Mary and everybody else. Have we contacted our partners in Southern California about these efforts just to coordinate a little better? That would be helpful to this whole cause, than just having everybody be from just in the Bay Area alone.
Mary, can I maybe comment on that? Thank you, Eugene. Lovely to see you, by the way. So we are working in coalition with Southern California, and their focus is not just on making sure that because there are agencies down there that are facing a fiscal cliff as well, but their focus also is in making sure that students get free fares. Which does not mean that operators do not get dollars. They do get dollars. They get dollars through funding, but that the students themselves get free fares. And so I actually was just thinking that. I was thinking I was going to give Move LA, which is the main sort of point person down there, a holler that this was happening up here, to make sure that we are and continue to be working together, because he's working with us in Northern California, and has signed the letters that the MTC put out. And we work with him on free fares for K through 16 students.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Thea. And thank you, Mary, for coordinating all this.
I see there's a bunch in the chat for other calls, and I see some questions. If you want to, I think there's also a lot of people still doing their calls. And so it looked like Assemblymember Bonta has gotten some calls, Senator McGuire. It's really great that Senator Skinner gets a lot of calls. And there's quite a few from Senator Skinner, so thank you. Is there anyone else that has any questions about what we're trying to do here? Thank you for putting in when you make your calls.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I called Assemblyman Grayson's office and talked to a staff person for several minutes, and he kind of, his answers were kind of, yes, we're aware of it, we're looking into it, we're aware of that meeting that's coming up, and we're keeping track. So, kind of, I called Senator Glazer's office. First I got put on hold, but then I talked to somebody and I explained things. And basically they said they got my email address and said, we'll listen to what I said, and then said, we'll email you back with a specific response. So
Mike, thank you.
that's what happened.
That's great.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as our coalition meeting, this is what we plan on doing. I just want to see from my colleagues, Amy, Thea, Ian, Adina, is there anything else we want to make sure that people know before we wrap up? We're gonna, please keep putting your results on in the chat. We're saving the chat so we can track how many calls were made. Right now, just from my count, we're definitely close to 20 calls. Ian's getting extra credit because he's just calling all sorts of things. Yeah, there we go. Ian got extra credit for doing 2. So anyone else, just keep putting it in the chat because we'd like to track it just so we can sort of get a sense of what this action did. Was it Mardi Gras that made it like a more vibrant action? We don't know. Okay, so anything else from my colleagues that you want to say before we wrap up? Go ahead, Carol. Go ahead, Adina, then Carol.
Just thanks to everybody who made the calls. It's like one thing to have a big coalition letter with a lot of logos, and it's something else entirely to have a lot of constituents. So,
okay. And then Betsy.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the practice. And I wondered if we are going to have some kind of breakout rooms to debrief. Are you able to put those, make those available after one, or?
We absolutely we could actually put those together. So that's no problem.
Okay.
And you have a certain group that you want to huddle up with? Absolutely.
Gray Panthers and anyone who's interested in us, we're trying to learn from this, how to use it for other issues. Okay. We are part of the coalition though, and have been for a while, but we'd like to,
Betsy.
That would be so helpful. Thank you.
Okay. We want to get to a point where all of our individual groups make calls and we can just like snap our fingers and they can be like activated. So Michael's next and then Rick.
Hi, is the Joint Transportation Committee meeting on Monday at 3 anything we can attend online?
Amy, I'm going to put it to you. I think Amy's got to hop off in a few minutes. I believe that it is in person. Is that right, Adina?
It is in person. I actually have a call with the staff doing that hearing, and if there's anything that will be useful for constituents to do, you can watch it online. I'm going to watch it to hear what they say. And if there's anything useful we can do, we're going to be sending out an email to people who attended, including the links to the presentation. And if there's anything especially useful for that hearing, we'll include it in that email.
And then Rick, you also have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Rick Bonilla. I'm sorry I was a little late getting here, but I'd be happy to make a couple of calls to our Senator Becker and to Assemblywoman Pappas. So I haven't had a chance to yet, but I will. And I just want to let you know that.
Thanks. And then Rick.
That was the other Rick.
Yeah, Rick. There's 2 Ricks. Thanks, Michael, for tracking.
Oh, I should be mute.
Rick, if you're talking, I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Are
It's
you?
Rick- Yeah, not
Hey.
Rick Bonilla, Rick Hopkins.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay.
That was it. But thanks.
Okay, got it. Okay, so Carol, you had one thing and then we can,
Oh, just to say the energy, looking at everybody's faces while they were making the calls was so much fun. You know,
okay,
it was really, I love doing this as a group. I want to do this more. I love the idea of debriefing, you know, in the breakout rooms. And when we do more meetings like this, we will, then we can make that as part of the program. And thank you so much, everybody. This was, you know, really energizing.
good. That is a really good debrief, is like, you know, just thinking about ways to do this in community, even though we're on Zoom, and then debriefing like how it went. So I'm gonna wrap it up unless anybody else has anything else, and just keep putting it in the chat. If you weren't able to access the chat, you can unmute yourself and just let us know. But thank you, everyone. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, I just wanted to also give Brandy a shout out. Thank you for your service and the way that you 72. I was telling her that 72 is no joke. That is a really long route. It crosses, I think, 2 counties and, you know, all the way up and down. And so I just really appreciate that. So anyone have any questions for Brandy, you can unmute yourself. But thank you so much, Brandy, for your service and coming on today.
Thank you, guys.
Cool. So Betsy, I'm going to put you guys in I'm just going to open up a breakout.